Hi there, you're listening to A Founder's Life, where my guests and myself share their entrepreneurial journey and their methods for a balanced life. I'm joined here today by Jason Ciment. Jason, thank you for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Jason Ciment. Been this way for 55 years. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So I think I'd love to start off by talking about family, which is obviously a very key part of your life. And talk to me about your family.
So I'm married for 29 years, have 4 kids aged 18 up to 27. My wife, the way we met, was published in a magazine. It was so God intervened, let's put it that way. I just took one of my kids to Israel last week. Last night's the first night I slept over 4 hours in like 10 days. And one kid lives in New York, the other 3 are still in LA. And I grew up in Miami Beach. And my dad wrote me a long letter when I said I'm moving to LA. And I lost that letter conveniently. And it's good. I'm close to my family, but LA is, for a variety of reasons, an awesome place to live.
It's your new family.
It's my new family. Well, I've been here longer than where I grew up, to be honest. And LA just offers, besides the fact that it's very expensive to live here, I get that. Fortunately, we moved here before it was too expensive. So we bought our house over 20 years ago. But lifestyle-wise, work-wise, religious-wise, even politically, people see it's crazy, but it's all good.
And so you said there was a pretty unique story about how you and your wife met. Would you like to share that?
I'll give you the shorter version, which is that my dad made up a phony will for his mother when she passed away, and all the grandkids inherited money, but the condition was you had to spend it in Israel. So we went to Israel, and my apartment in New York City was breaking up, and I was going to be moving into a new apartment, so I went to go check it out right before I went to Israel. And I go to Israel. 5 days later, I'm walking into someone's apartment. I'm sitting on the patio and visiting a friend. This girl walks in. She's introduced to me. She looks at me and she goes, "Were you just in New York City putting on rollerblades on the corner of 97th Street in Columbus like 5 days ago?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "I live in that building." I go, "Oh, I'm moving into that building when I get back from Israel." And so we spent the entire week in Israel together, like 24/7. I didn't go, it wasn't immediate, but it was very fast. I saw her a day later, which was part of the Serendipity, and I said, "Hey, I'm with my brother, we're going to this bar, why don't you meet us there?" And she shows up at the bar with this girl that we were both friends with. I immediately leave my brother with his 10 friends, and I go sit with her for 2 hours. Then she invites me for a dessert the following night, and I was staying literally across the street from her in a hotel. She was in an apartment. Then the next night I called her on a payphone when they used to have payphones, and I said, "Hey, you want to go to the zoo tomorrow? They just opened up a big zoo in Jerusalem." And she thought it was with all those girls that we were friends with, and it was just me and her, and we had a 10-hour date for our first date. So it was just luck, right?
Wow.
Divine guidance. There you go.
Meant to be.
One of those. And it turned out we were at an engagement party and a wedding for a couple. The wedding was 3 weeks before we met. I was at the same table as her, never saw her, but she saw me, which may be why she recognized me again the second time. And that couple that got married wanted to fix us up and just never went through with it. So it's just one of those crazy stories. By the way, I tell that story because it fuels a lot of the things in my life that intersect with business, intersect socially, which is, like, that's a crazy story. It was so crazy it was really published in a magazine. I know it's a nutty story. A lot of couples have their nutty stories. I get that. But the question is, how much in your life can you look at circumstances and realize, okay, maybe it's not so nutty. Maybe someone is pulling some strings and making things happen for me. Not to sound crazy, but it's more a question of recognizing that there's some powers beyond that are moving things along, right? So it's inspiring is really the point, because am I just a food-eating machine to sleep in between meals? right? Or am I supposed to be here to do something more? And I don't mean just be successful in business, things like that. Meaning, is there some greater purpose that, which may be behind a lot of this podcast too?
And talking about work, so moving over to that side, so talk to us both about your journey, what brought you to where you are now, and what you're doing now.
It's definitely my flamingo over here. We can't leave out the flamingo. But no, my journey is a lot of Robert Frost, where roads opened up and I took them, right? So I don't know, less or more traveled, but I was a CPA in the early 90s for the top firm in the country. Somehow they hired me, which was a rare thing. They didn't usually hire people from the college I went to. They hired me, and it was literally the top firm in the country for real estate accounting. Then I went to law school, thought I'd be an estate attorney because I love the family dramas, and I'm good at the numbers and figuring out stuff. But it turns out I hate deadlines and I hate paperwork. I could still have done the structures and dealt with the families. I would have probably just had someone do all the heavy lifting. And when I graduated, a friend calls me up and says, and I was living in New York. We had gotten married. We were going to move to LA, but we were still living in New York just playing. And the guy says, hey, you should build an internet. You should build a website on this thing called the internet. Back when they had, 1800 speed baud modems? Like, it was crazy stuff. You know, the AOL tunes. Anyway, I built a website. I built an e-commerce site. This is back in 97, which is I had to figure out everything. Merchant accounts, search engine optimization when it was still a new term. Google didn't even exist yet. And it was working. I was getting sales. I had a wholesale access to magazine subscriptions, so I could buy them for 70, 80 cents on the dollar and still sell them at full retail and make good money. And then after 5, 6 years into that, first of all, I got funded by a big incubator in New York. They gave me a big chunk of money. And then a number of years later, one of my former employees called me and said, hey, why don't we do this for other people? Because we taught ourselves everything, how to do the marketing, how to get customers. And he said, let's open up a consulting agency. You go hustle and I'll do the work. And now it's 20 years later and we've got 20 people. Now it's called Gut Visible. It used to be called LA Design. We don't have an office. It's all distributed. People in multiple countries. And it's a Robert Frost thing. Didn't choose it. It chose me.
So you're still with the same partner after 20 plus years?
20 years, yeah. Well, he worked for me first, then he left. He got his bones working in a business which was hyper competitive. He became really good at advertising. He was doing things before Google got smart to it, so they had a watch business. He would advertise Gucci, even though it was a trademark thing, and he would buy the Latin character for the U for Gucci. So he could bid on the Gucci without using the Gucci brand. Now you can't do that stuff anymore. But I'm not saying he's evil, but he worked the system, which is what you have to do. And so he took that ingenuity into search engine rankings, which we had already been doing, and that's how we started. And every couple of years we added another service into the business. And so now it's a search engines, it's advertising, social media, LinkedIn outreach, content development. It's a lot of different things. That's why we're up to 20 people. But it all started very innocently just doing optimization. I'll tell you a very quick funny story. Google was my client. They found me probably on Yahoo when they were in stealth mode, and they became my client. They bought every magazine in our catalog for like 5 years. And I only should have been paid in stock. That was my mistake.
Yeah, that would have been good. Yeah. And I think the, trying to do things guerrilla mode is very entrepreneurial. So the way you're talking about your partner started doing things, I think is pretty typical for an entrepreneur.
Well, yeah. I mean, everything is shoestring budget and trying to stretch the dollar more than it's supposed to be stretched and finding efficiencies. One thing about our agencies, we don't represent the gorilla. We are up against the gorilla in our minds. So sometimes we have the big companies. We've worked with big companies like Westfield, right? And a few other big ones. But most of our clients are not the big ones. They're the ones competing with the big ones. So it enforces a level of creativity as well as like just raw energy, something that I think you can relate to, right? It's like there's no barrier other than my own willpower.
That's being an entrepreneur. I mean, in the end, it's... I always love... I think it was Ford who said, obviously many, many, many years ago, a journalist was interviewing him and said, Mr. Ford, you seem very lucky. And he said, it's funny, the harder I work, the luckier I become.
Right.
And I think, we make our own luck.
Well, yes, provided the guy upstairs wants to give it to you.
Yeah, fair enough.
I know a guy...
It's got to be a mix.
How about this? I know a guy, the less he works, the more he makes.
Okay. But most of us need to work hard to do it.
Yes.
And what do you like to do to stay healthy, in whatever definition that is for you?
Nothing that you do, that's for sure. You're the polar opposite for me. Though I'm thinking at 55 I have to start taking it more seriously, because I believe that my body is not at the same pace as my brain in terms of its aging. So I think instinctively I don't do bad things. I don't do enough good things. I know that when I was young, like 5 years old, my mom used to smoke occasionally, but for whatever reason, because no one told me this, I would throw away her cigarettes. Like she'd hide them, we'd find them. It was sort of a game, I think, in my head, not to her. And my older brother and I would throw away her cigarettes. And so the idea of putting bad things into my body, even overeating and stuff like that, or too much sugar, it's repulsive to me. In the same way that eating a lobster would be, just from a religious standpoint. I couldn't do it. I always joke when I'm going to heaven, I hope my first thing is I want a cheeseburger upstairs, right? But I think that from a healthy standpoint, it's not that I'm so healthy, but I'm less not healthy, maybe. So now I got to work on the being healthy part and exercising.
Yeah, I mean, I think what that comes down to, I actually posted a blog about this a few days ago, which is health span versus longevity. And I'm a big believer in health span. And, as you know, I'm sort of lost 95 pounds in the last 20 years, but become healthier generally, sort of physically and, meditate regularly and things like that as well. And I'm a big believer in, staying healthy until I die. I'm not looking to live forever. I'm not looking to...
Right.
Live particularly long, but I do want to be physically with it.
Correct.
Until I go.
I agree. I don't need to live a crappy life to 100 if I could live a better life to 80. Not that I want to check out at 80, but somehow I think by then, at least the way this body is right now, that's enough.
Yeah, I think I can do the healthy life till 100, hopefully.
Maybe. Okay. Pickleball's waiting for you.
What do you like to do for fun?
I mean, first of all, I enjoy reading. So for me, it's an escape. I read typically 1 or 2 books a week. I don't sleep very much, so I have a lot of time to learn. Well, I say learn because truthfully reading a book is, especially if I do a lot of historical fiction, even if I deal with thrillers, it's usually based on things that are happening in the world. So like when Beepergate happened in Israel a month ago or 2 months ago, there was already a novel on the same concept. It wasn't with beepers, it was some other device, but the same idea was already happening, so it doesn't diminish from Beepergate. Maybe they read the same novel. I think that started years ago. Anyway, I enjoy social things with people that I have intimate connections with. So for example, every Friday, an hour before the Sabbath, there's a group of guys that get together, rotates houses, and they have some drinks. It's a way of bridging the normal work week, have an hour to sort of transition into the Sabbath where I have no electronics anyway, but it's a group of guys. We have some drinks, a little bit of food. It's a nice gathering and it's an intimate thing, even to the point where one of those guys had a bar mitzvah in Paris for his kid because his wife's family still lives in Paris, and many of the people in that group flew to Paris with their spouses to celebrate with him. It was a very intimate thing. Very nice. Whole weekend in Paris. I'm not saying it was cheap, but it was something that it was worth to do. And everybody used it as an excuse to make a vacation. So it wasn't just the bar mitzvah. The bar mitzvah was the catalyst. So I think that quality time with people that you have good relationships, whether it's family or friends, is good. That's a very big deal for me. Sometimes I just like at 9 o'clock to kick back and watch a TV show with my wife. That's enough too. Even if she's on her phone the whole time. Doesn't matter.
Do you read physical books, or are you doing Kindle, or how do you actually read?
Are you kidding me? The last thing I want to do is touch an electronic device after I've finally shut down. Yeah, I go to the Beverly Hills Library, I pick up books, I have a stack. Once every few weeks I replenish. Very happy to pay my taxes and get the Beverly Hills or the Los Angeles Library too. It's amazing.
Wow, and libraries still exist?
Yeah, I'm very happy.
Nice, I think. So you said you don't sleep much. Well, I'd say as part of health, I'm a big believer in sleep. I think actually as part of the new health app we're launching, sleep is certainly a cornerstone in it, because I think that's when the body recovers. But you're saying you don't need much sleep?
I don't need it as much as other people. I don't have an alarm. On average, I have this, one of those funky watches. Get the cheaper version of the funky watch. It still tells me how much I sleep. And on average, it's a little over 6 hours a night. And it's not that I wake up with an alarm. Again, I wake up, I'm ready to go. I don't drink coffee. Part of those things about doing bad things to your body, I don't have any. My addiction is Apple Jacks maybe, but even that I'm not addicted to. I just wake up and I'm let's go. I got things to do. But like you said, health span. So I feel like there's a limited number of hours I have each day to just accomplish a lot of things. And I see a lot of shiny objects every day. So here, us spending a half hour talking together, this is a big enjoyment, not just because it's a podcast and maybe it has some benefit, it gets out there, but we like each other, we have a good relationship, so we're talking serious things. This is fun for me, more than trying to pitch business. That's paying bills, Yeah,
it is fun to get a chance to chat in this kind of environment.
Right.
And the question is, can you actually stop working? Can you turn off? How good are you, I guess, when you're reading, or how good are you at actually saying, okay, I'm done for the day. I want to focus on.
In all fairness, I've had practice for 50 years of being sentient every Friday night, turning it off. I don't cheat. I never broke Shabbat in my life, consciously. I don't think my brain ever shuts down, but I'm not in a work mode over the Sabbath. And at night, when I'm watching Netflix, maybe I'm checking my emails in between or whatever. I have laptops all over my house, so that's just because I don't want to go down to the office or something. But I think my life is like, people say I'm going on vacation, I'm not checking emails. I think I can't relate to that. First of all, I'm in a service business, so the idea that I can't be reachable to my clients is not honest to the level of commitment that I'm giving to them. They're already used to not getting me on Shabbat, but if I'm away, and I was in Israel for a week, I'm going away somewhere else, I still have a phone, I'm available, but I'm not working, I'm just on call, so I don't mind that. I think that the nature, and maybe the 21st century is perfect for a person like me that can live in two worlds at the same time, right? Technically, if you look at it, we're both Jewish. I guess I outed you just now, but at any moment of the day, I'm living two identities, because I have a Jewish identity and I have an American secular identity, and they both are existing complementary to each other. So at the same moment that I go get a bite to eat and I'm saying a blessing on the food, I might be sitting in front of the computer doing the work. Like, they're just these multiple identities is a word, but I would just say I'm constantly tethered to multiple touch points. And I'm not bothered by that. I think that's just the nature of having a multi-channel existence. So,
yeah, I think some people need to completely switch off. They need that to recharge.
Yeah.
I'm probably closer to you in terms of, for me, like if I travel, if I'm away on holiday, I will work probably a couple of hours, something in the morning, something in the evening. For me, I can switch off in the middle. Whereas I'd actually get more stressed by not doing any work, wondering what's outstanding. Right. So for me, I'd prefer to spend, an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, and actually my mind can switch off during the day because I know I'm on top of everything.
Right. Now, one wonderful thing is when you go overseas, there's no expectation that anyone's going to reach out to you until 3 in the afternoon. So technically, from 9 in the morning, let's say I wake up early, which I normally do, so I'll check my emails in the first couple of hours of the day. But from 9 to 3 when I was in Israel, I don't even know what's happening. Everybody's sleeping. So technically, you got that feeling. I don't have to be in Israel for that feeling, but I don't feel anxious because I got to check my emails, and I don't have a dopamine rush either from doing it or not doing it. But I agree with you. I feel a relief knowing that everyone's being taken care of.
Makes sense. I mean, my team are all over the world, so I guess I could be getting emails at any time.
Right.
Although AM EST is going to be, for me, sort of the most important, because that's sort of a good overlap between Europe and the US.
Sure.
So, talking about a pivotal moment in your life, whether that be personal, business, both, either, what would you say are sort of or could be more than one, pivotal moment in your life?
Well, getting married is the biggest. No, but not just because you find your spouse and hopefully your life partner, but it's also that you don't have to be looking anymore. Right? That's a big thing, at least in my world. You know, you're purpose-driven, have children. That's like biblical. Like, that's going back to the foundation of our existence. But finding that person you're going to do that with, that's a huge relief. So that's the biggest one. And part of all that is also, it means you're now leaving behind your past to create a new future. So I think if you're lucky enough that it's one person and all of that stuff works, that's the biggest pivot, the biggest point, as you said. I think subsequent to that was deciding not to be a lawyer. That was a big deal because that was more than just a 3-year law school investment. It was college, CPA, all to the destiny that I thought I would have. So I can't point to that moment when I made the decision, but I think that's a big one. Buying a house, first house, is a big one. Yeah, buying and building a house, I'd say, because that wasn't just buying. It was buying and building. That was a huge undertaking. Not the emotional part of it, but just economically, it's a big deal to go sign a mortgage and all that kind of stuff. Those are big. The businesses, those are functional things in life. You know, they're not permanent as the way a marriage should be, or a house, or raising children. So there were certain business decisions I made that were very good. A big one was deciding to have a partner and founding an agency, and that's been like harder than a marriage in certain ways because we don't live in the same city, and we're emotionally, mentally, religiously, politically, like really not the same at all. But where we are the same is where it matters for business partners is let's do the best we can for clients. Let's have the same sort of moral values. So those things work. And maybe we complement each other on the rest of it.
How does a balanced life look for you? And I don't mean perfectly in balance, because I'd say things are rarely perfectly in balance. They flow up and down. But how does overall a balanced life look for you?
Basements. Got to have a basement. That's number one. Because my wife is upstairs and I'm in the basement. So that's a good balance.
Oh, a literal basement.
Yeah, a literal basement. I'm thinking about it because I work in the house. So many people now work at home. I was just in my friend's house in Israel, and him and his wife, they have a huge house, but their office is in the basement together. They're in the same room. That's craziness. They're both working. She has headphones on, and he's much louder than she is, and yet they're in the same room. That's just too much. Like, I think separate but equal, right? I think America had that figured out. I don't know how much you learned about that in England, but a balanced life. I love Sabbath. I think that creates balance because I shut everything off, and otherwise every day runs into the next. I sort of learned that when the world was created, let's say, just, it doesn't matter religiously or not, but the idea of the 7-day week, right? That was a change to humanity, because otherwise humanity was driven by seasons and really just the solar cycle. Every year, okay, we're starting over again. It's hot, it's cold, it's time to harvest, time to plant, right, type of thing. But all of a sudden, history changed when you decided, you know what, it's not just an annual cycle of things. There's sort of like even the idea of the moon renewing every month, right? So that truncates things down to 30 days, right? So I think that thinking about purpose and having these inflection points that you get to think about things and plan, it removes you from a cycle that just doesn't stop. That keeps balance, because if you're just working all the time, you don't have anything to balance it against.
Well, it's been fun chatting. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
You should buy good scotch. Share it with friends. And if it's scotch, it doesn't matter what the things. It could be tequila. It doesn't matter. There's a guy. He has a tequila company called Bad Stuff. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No.
It's his own label. I don't drink tequila, but he gave me a $1,000 bottle of Bad Stuff, and I saved it for a birthday weekend. That Friday afternoon when all those guys are coming over, I hosted it. We had a pastrami that was steaming from Chicago for a few hours, and opened up this bottle of tequila to share. That's a very nice thing to do, right? So
that's fun.
I think the thing to especially for a discussion like this is, how do you find joy in the middle of busy days and busy nights outside of just family? Not everybody's privileged to have that family. So a lot of people don't get married or whatever, different circumstance. So you have to find those social moments that are deeper than just fleeting, right?
Well, that's with your chosen family.
Yeah. Hence, be seen, get chosen, see?
And how can people find you?
They can look up Jason Ciment online or Get Visible. There's a lot of content out there that we've pushed. They could get my book. Here's my shameless plug. I Need More Clients. There it is. I wrote that a bunch of years ago. People still buy it, surprisingly. It was a bestseller on Amazon for a while. And my goal, as I showed you my flamingo before, is to be flamazing. That's what our goal is for the clients. Here's why you should find me. Especially if you live in the United States and your business does under $1 million, then you should call me, because I can help you get a $5,000 tax credit on fixing up your website. That's a big deal. It's free money.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and leave a review.